Hey YouTube, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a first impressions video for you. And today we're going to take a look at something from the Todd Begg Steelcraft series, which is pretty cool. You know, it's sort of a production series of Todd Begg custom knives, which is really, really nice. Now, there has been, or there could have potentially been some problems here. As many of you probably know, there are some issues between Todd Begg and his brother Mark and stuff. And really, and I'm not going to get into that other than to say I did begin to get a little worried that that was going to interfere with the Steelcraft series of knives. Thankfully, it hasn't. So these knives have come out and I've been able to get my hands on one. And by the way, before I get into what's in the package and all that stuff, just let me give a quick shout out to Knives Ship Free. They did a great job. They got this knife out super fast and they are really, really nice to deal with. They also take PayPal, which helps. I don't know about some of you watching, but for me, that's a big advantage. Thank you, Knives Ship Free, for getting this knife out so quickly. And I really like dealing with Knives Ship Free so much that I will often wait until a knife that I want is in stock there rather than order it somewhere else. Without further ado, let's quickly show you what's in the box. Now, the knife is not in the box. I'll warn you about that right away. But I just want to show you kind of what it ships with. So you get this little sort of card, and it just sort of congratulates you on getting a really awesome knife. All right, if you really want to pause and read that, you're welcome to do so. If I can, there we go. Should be able to read most of it there. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. You do get a little Todd Begg sticker, which is always nice. You know, my 2-year-old, my 6-year-old love that kind of thing. And then you've got a little certificate of authenticity with a serial number on it. So that's always very nice. Now, let's go ahead and get the knife itself. This, of course, is the Todd Begg Glimpse. That's the design. And there's a bit of a departure here, guys, because other knives in the Steelcraft series, the Quaken, the Mini and full-size Bodega, the Field Marshal, I could be forgetting one. Are there any others? If I'm forgetting one, comment down below. But all of those are built by Riot Knives, and they're very well built by Riot Knives. I've got my Bodega right here. Absolutely love this knife. And so instead of going with Riot Knives, for whatever reason, whether it was the construction, whether it was price point that they're looking to hit, for whatever reason, they decided to have We Knives build this one. And that did significantly lower the price by over $100. I think these were like $465 or something, and these guys were $349. So pretty big price drop there, and that's certainly appreciated, and this will probably help this knife to be maybe a little more popular. Nice to see a little more accessible. I mean, $349 is still expensive, guys, no doubt. But it's probably a little more within reach than something like this that's almost $500. Okay, so that's the sort of background on this knife. Of course, the Glimpse has been around for a while. It's been a really cool Todd Begg design that I have really liked for some time, and I was really excited when I found out that they were doing this production version, and of course that We was doing it, because generally speaking, We does a great job on fit and finish and on quality control and all of that stuff, and certainly this knife is no exception. And so I think, you know, if perhaps you were thinking, well, will we be able to get the same level of quality, the same level of sort of perfection that you see in this knife? You know, yeah, they have pretty well nailed that. This is an exceptionally well done knife. And I don't know, as far as I'm concerned, now some of you will disagree who are really into custom knives. I'm not a big custom knife guy anyway, but with something like this in existence, it makes it really hard to justify the custom or even the semi-custom from the shop in California. All right, so one last sip of coffee there, and let's go ahead with the sort of details on this. Then we'll get into specs, size and weight, and my overall thoughts. So let's touch on some of the details here. We have this very nice S35VN blade, hollow grind. Now it's a pretty low hollow grind, and that could potentially be an issue, but the blade stock is not crazy stupid thick. Now I haven't measured this, but I'll measure it before I get to my full review, but I can just tell you it's not as thick as, say, the Bodega. It's probably more closer to what you're seeing in, you know, your typical Spyderco, something like that, around 120, 140 thousandths. Hollow grind, nice top swedge. Now the swedge is very aggressive at the top, so it's almost, you can see, hold on, there we go. You can see it's very, very thin. So the one drawback here is that you're not going to get your thumb sort of up here. I mean, you can put it there, but it's not comfortable at all. All right, now back here though, where you are going to rest your thumb, the blade is nicely crowned, which is a really, really nice touch. And when it comes to ergonomics, everything is nicely rounded and smoothed and comfortable, which I've got to say is really, really appreciated. Take a look at that blade. The blade here is absolutely gorgeous. Totally love it. And now let's move on to the handle. So this is a titanium frame lock with a backspacer construction here. And then for the scales themselves, you have G10 with carbon fiber inlay. And I've got to say, I thought a lot about which particular one I wanted. I really didn't like the all G10, and I didn't like the ones with no fuller. Okay, so that was kind of a requirement for me. It had to have the fuller there. And the carbon fiber. And this is really, really nicely done carbon fiber. Very attractive. On this side, of course, there's no fuller. I would have liked to see something done here. I'm not even sure what, but it's not the end of the world. It's still really nice looking even on this side. We've got the single position. That's going to be important for those of you who are lefties. Single position pocket clip here. Now, one thing is this knife is very thick. It's got to be at least 5/8 of an inch thick, maybe even a little more than that. So, oh yeah, ceramic bearing, ceramic detent ball. The action on this is very, very nice. The blade is a little lighter. I think because of the extra grinding at the top, the blade is a little lighter than the Bodega, so I kind of had concerns that, sometimes a really light blade doesn't give you a lot of inertia for flipping really hard and firm, but this one definitely flips out with a lot of authority. So now that we've kind of gone over the features of the knife, let's quickly grab a size and weight. Now, this is going to be my first time seeing this as well, so we're going to learn together. Let's see. Hopefully we're not going to learn together how my scale works. All right. So basically 5.5 ounces, 5.497 as you can see. Well, there you go. So 5.5 ounces, which is not terrible, especially for a knife of this size. Just to give you an idea, now it didn't go back to 0, but it's going to be close enough. The Bodega is 6.4 ounces, okay? So there's quite a significant difference in weight. However, and by the way, that makes sense, guys. This handle is mostly G10 and carbon fiber, which is going to be much lighter than this, which is mostly titanium. Let's grab some overall size measurements here. This knife is quite a large knife. We've got just under, you can see it's like a 1/16 under 9 inches. Blade length here is pretty well 3 3/4 inches. It's just a hair over 3 3/4 inches. And the handle length is going to be just over 5 inches. So maybe 5 1/8 or 5, almost 5 3/16. Okay, so that's what you're dealing with for the length dimensions. I should give you that width as well. So let's see. Yeah, that's a pretty solid, let's see if you can see it there. That's a pretty solid 5/8 of an inch. So as the clip's kind of, you can peek through the clip there and see the measurement there is about 5/8. So those are the sizes on this guy. Pretty big knife. And let me put these two side by side, because I've got to say, the Bodega, it feels like a big knife. And people commented that, hey, that's a really large knife. And it is, however, and I should have known, but my perception was that the glimpse was going to be quite a bit smaller, or at least, half an inch or something smaller, but it's every bit as large as the Bodega. It weighs less, as you've seen, about an ounce less, and it's quite a bit thicker in pocket. Now, in hand, that does make it very, very comfortable. All right, now let's move the Bodega out of the way now that you've kind of had that size comparison, so you know what you're dealing with along those lines. And let me make a few comments about, sort of my thoughts on this knife. It's fairly big, which makes it a bit of a pocket hog, but it's extremely comfortable in hand. And we've had this discussion over and over again, guys, that a knife with a thicker, larger handle is inevitably or invariably going to be more comfortable because it's just nice and round and hand filling. You can really get a grip on it. So that's really, really nice. There's a potential hot spot in the titanium liner there. Not horrible, but when if I grip the knife in certain ways, I can sort of feel those teeth in there. Now, I wouldn't want to take the teeth away because as it stands, this knife is very easy to lock and unlock, which I really like. So I'm not saying they should do anything about it, but it could potentially be just a little bit uncomfortable. The other thing that's cool about this is, and I've actually already done some cutting with this, is it kind of, your finger can slide up here into this, really what's more of a sharpening choil than a finger choil, but it ends up serving okay as a finger choil as well. Give you a nice look at that backspacer, very attractively done. Now I will say this seems a little odd to me. I don't know, it feels like it would have been more consistent to continue with the nested liners instead of bringing them out flush here. Not the end of the world, but it just, I don't know, it seems like a departure. Now I will say it's a departure that makes sense because you want to make sure that these screws are going into metal, all right? And then the other thing to point out is the fit and finish is exceptional. There's literally no transition. If I close my eyes, there would be no way of knowing that there's an inlay in this handle at all. All right, so that's really, really nicely done. So, what are my thoughts on this knife? Couple things. First, if you're a huge Todd Begg fan, you're gonna love this. One of the things that stands out to me about it is because of the slightly cheaper price point and the G10 and carbon fiber on the handle, this is probably going to be a knife that most people are going to feel more comfortable using and carrying. You know, when you're carrying a knife like this, although I carry this an awful lot, you are aware of the fact that, hey, this is titanium. So if I drop this, if I bang anything against it, it's going to mark it up and it's going to take away from the overall look of the knife. This, with carbon fiber and G10, it's very durable. You know, you could likely drop this in your pocket with a bunch of change or whatever else, and it's not going to show any significant wear. Now, you maybe get some marks on the pivot or something like that. I think for a Todd Begg fan who wants to carry something from Begg Knives that he's comfortable using or she's comfortable using, I think this is a great option. Certainly, I feel a little more comfortable using and carrying this than even my Bodega, and both of them are production knives. It's not like I've got a custom or anything like that. So I think that's a good aspect. The other thing is if you like WE knives, you want something a little nicer than what they're normally doing or a little more stylistic, I think this is a great option. WE Knives does try to do stuff that's pretty out there. Normally, though, their designs are not carried off as well as this. This is a beautiful, beautiful knife that looks awesome, but also functions pretty nicely. And by the way, I'm just going to tell you this, although this is a first impressions, I did do some cutting with this last night, and the blade, I was worried that this fairly low hollow grind wouldn't slice, say, apples or stuff like that very well, but it actually performed quite nicely. So, and I think that's because the blade stock is not super, super thick. So, overall impression, really, really nice high-end EDC. Definitely right up there with any of the other high-end EDCs that you could think of. If you like carrying Riot knives or other WE knives or, Sabenzas or Hinderers or anything else, I think this is absolutely right in that ballpark in terms of quality. The design is beautiful, and I do like Todd Begg designs. Now, there's going to be some of you who are not into Todd Begg, and you're not going to like the design. Well, that's a totally different discussion. But if you're looking at this wondering, is the quality there? Is the utility there? It absolutely is, and I'm pretty stoked about this knife. So maybe I'll have some further thoughts. Maybe something's going to happen and it totally puts me off the knife by the time I get to the review, but overall, this is a pretty well done knife, and I'm pretty impressed with what WE has been able to do. And I'm pretty excited about Todd Begg, about the Steelcraft series working with WE as well, because maybe that'll mean some other slightly more budget-friendly models. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will talk to you soon.